We're going to talk about some high and lows at the Swamp with John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. I'm Dave Hooker. Four Downs brought to you by Zen Sports. Zen Sports, tell you more about them here momentarily. Four Downs right now.
Four Downs. Four questions. Four answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
Four
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, here we go. The Vols at Gainesville this weekend. Four Downs is brought to you by our friends at Zen Sports. And I encourage you to check that website out and download the app. That would be the most appropriate thing, as, again, Zen Sports is the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get with their cash rewards program. You get a lot of cash for a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for the first 15 days. You got to use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED. Unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that, and refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports is bringing the cash back to Tennessee, so if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. And also gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 and over, and in Tennessee to bet. So Cooper Mays will tell us the down, as he always does, and we appreciate that because you know as well as I do, John, that the center calls out down and distance pretty often, right?
Yes, he does, and he continues that on your show. I hope he's being paid handsomely for that effort.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Coop here. First down.
There we go. First down is this, John. Best moment in the Swamp. There aren't a lot to choose from for the Vols. It's got to be 2001, right?
Yeah.
2001, excuse me.
Yeah, that was in December. The game was postponed from September. If they'd have probably played as scheduled, if had 9/11, the 9/11 tragedy hadn't occurred, they would have played in September, and Florida would have probably won and would have ended up playing for a national championship. Played in December, and Tennessee ran roughshod over the Gators. Amazing. The score wasn't indicative of the game. I think it was 34-32, but it was amazing how Tennessee pushed that Florida team around. That was a very talented Florida team. Spurrier thought it might have been his most talented team. So that, to me, just that overshadowed anything else that happened. I think Tennessee was an 18-point underdog.
Yeah, and Caleb, the thing that stands out to me most about that game is Steve Spurrier just seemed like he would not run the football, and Tennessee ran that prowler package where they had guys standing, and John's laughing at the name of it. But basically it was the challenge for to run, and they just would not do it, and he continued to throw the football.
Well, Tennessee had a couple of advantages that whole year. One, when you have John Henderson and Albert Haynesworth, you can play a much softer coverage because you know you're going to stop the run with just those two guys in the middle. Florida didn't have Ernest Graham. If you guys recall, Ernest Graham got hit with a pretty dirty cheap shot by Florida State the week before, so they had Robert Gillespie starting in that game. I don't know if Ernest Graham playing would have made much of a difference because of how much of a push Tennessee was getting on the defensive line in that one. But yeah, I remember that one significantly too. It was, you're right. And Tennessee just absolutely dominated on the ground. As a game, that's definitely the best moment. The Hail Mary in 2003 does compete as a play, though, when Clausen just closed his eyes and let it fly, and James Banks caught the tip pass in the end zone for a touchdown.
Yep, no doubt about it. As we go to what down, Coop? You got to let me know.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Lowest moment in the Swamp. Guys, there are a few, but the lowest moment when the rug got pulled out from under Tennessee in Gainesville. John?
A lot to choose from. I can name 3 or 4 real quickly, but the very lowest to me was 1995. Peyton's first start against Florida. Tennessee's up 30-14 late in the first half. I mean, it's rolling up and down the field. We always hear the narrative is always, Peyton couldn't win in the Swamp. Peyton couldn't beat Florida. But Peyton actually put up some really good numbers against Florida, and he was doing that in that game. But it was 30-14, and Florida proceeded to score 48 consecutive points. I don't think I've ever, all of college football I've watched, I've never seen a game like that between two top 10 teams where somebody just went off like that. 48 straight points, and Tennessee tacked on a meaningless score. 62-37 game was the final count. But yeah, it appeared as though Tennessee was on its way. And of course, if it wins that game, it's a favorite to win the national championship. But it was a stunning turnaround.
I would say 93 because as a student, I made the trip down there and things went incredibly south. And me and Rusty, who John knows, left at halftime because it was so brutal, and ended up Tennessee made a run, and we were lost in the middle of nowhere as we just drove in a direction randomly. So that would be my worst, Caleb.
You just started dry. You didn't have any place in mind, landing spot?
Not really. We're trying to get back to his mom's, and that was before GPS, and that was my younger, wetter days, let's say. So, Caleb, that would be, to me, the lowest moment as I go on a personal level.
Well, y'all are both wrong. And because there's actually a fact on this. This isn't even an opinion. So I get your point in 93. John, I feel you in 95. That's how I felt in 2007 with Tebow going off. But at least those teams were talented. It's 2017 when Tennessee is facing the worst Florida team in decades in the swamp. And they're in the top 25. And only Butch Jones could be incompetent enough to lose that game. Florida wins off a Hail Mary, and Butch Jones says in the press conference, well, we don't have a dime package. And that's why they beat us over the top.
Whoops, slipped up on that dime package.
I mean, how do you not just put an extra defensive back out there and pretend?
It was that game was 17, you said? I'm thinking
2017.
Okay, I'm thinking about the 15 game there in the swamp.
Also incompetent Butch.
When he went full Butch on that one, and they scored, and all he had, everything, got to go for 2 points here, and he didn't. He just kicked the extra point. That was after Jalen Hurd scored a touchdown. I think he was planning on kicking a field goal, and he was shocked when Jalen Hurd ran into the end zone.
Exactly what happened.
And so after the game, he defended that by saying, well, we have a book, and that's what you go by. Well, the book said, no, you don't kick. You go for 2 there. So his explanations were always his greatest mistake. He was better off just moving along and not commenting, but he always made things worse.
It's like Nixon.
Wait, real quick story on that game, that 2015 game, John, because you might sway me. Because this is literally when Butch Jones and Jim McElwain coach against each other. It was Dumb and Dumber like I've never seen. And Jim McElwain was down by 6, decided to kick a field goal. I think it was the third quarter. Butch Jones expected him to go for it, so he didn't have a field goal block team. He burned a timeout to get his field goal block team on when Florida was kicking like a 55-yard field goal. And then Florida decided out of the timeout, we're going to go for this instead. And then they convert the 4th down.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that till you brought it up. I guess Butch would have said afterwards, well, the book said you call a timeout there.
And they could have used that timeout on the last drive when they were trying to
that was just a brutal. It depends, I guess, when you say what's the worst game. Dave went personal. I went overall impact on the season, and you went for just a baffling coaching errors. There's so many different ways to look at it, but when you look at that 15 game, there were so many mistakes Butch made in that game. Tennessee at the very end actually had a chance to get back in there, and it was just some crazy decisions. That was Butch Jones at his worst. That's the Butch Jones Arkansas State administrators should have seen before it made that hire.
Wow. I like the Nixon comparison, by the way, because he was a liar and he did make things worse.
He's not a crook, Dave.
Also, Nixon was smart. At least he had some things working upstairs.
He was smart.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Tennessee center Cooper Mays here, 3rd down.
Greatest UT player in the swamp. It It is Casey Clausen. Discussion over.
Excuse me. I go back to that 2001 game with Travis Stevens rushing for over 200 yards.
Okay. All right, Caleb.
Yeah, it's obviously Travis Stevens.
Okay,
226 yards.
All right. Casey Clausen. I'm going Iceman.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
John, you've been to a lot of places. Where does the Swamp rank among the hardest places to play, you think?
1990s, it rated right at the top. Now, not so much. Florida fans are classic front runners. So when their team takes a downward turn, they follow along, and they're off to the Purple Porpoise a lot of times. Dave, you've probably been there.
I've been to the Purple Porpoise.
I thought you had.
Yes, maybe several times. When it's good, it's right up there, in my opinion, with the best in college football. You're right, though. It can be incredibly dark and dank when they're not good. I will say this. The humidity is always going to work in their favor against Tennessee early in the season. Caleb, your thoughts before we get to another topic here, sir?
Yeah, it's circumstantial. I'm with you guys because it depends on if they're doing well, but also it depends. Say they are doing well. I think at night, Death Valley at LSU is the toughest stadium, but I think if Florida's doing well, it's brutal even for a noon game. Noon kickoff, Florida fans will still be. They might even be more brutal at noon than at night.
It's pretty hot in Tiger Stadium. Humidity's pretty high. It's been running in the hundreds. I don't know what it'll be in September, but I think LSU is probably one of the toughest places to play now. You couldn't tell it by Tennessee last year, but there are a lot of venues in the SEC that are really hard places. Tennessee, I think Neyland Stadium, when it's on the top of its game, it's as rough on opponents as anybody, i.e. the Alabama game last year.